can't believe it's been 10 years since the start of Open Compute, and there certainly has been a lot of challenges and opportunities along the way. The first is just the sheer growth of the community. When I first started, it was just a few companies working on compute, storage, and networking devices. And to see how the community has grown to now over 8,000 engineers working across 30 projects. We have telco devices and AI devices and chiplets and accelerators. So it's just been really fun to watch how big and broad the community has developed over the last 10 years. Another very exciting area has been the supply chain. When we first started, there were only a few suppliers serving 2 or 3 hyperscale companies. And now we have over 30 different types of resellers worldwide, from basic component suppliers all the way up through full rack systems integrators, providing local managed services around Open Compute. So to see the shift of some of these service providers to their entire business model being focused on Open Compute has been a real fun, interesting transition to watch in the market. And the third is the type of company that has joined Open Compute. When we first started, it was primarily a few hyperscalers and several vendors. But now, looking at our membership, you have retail companies, you have oil and gas companies, you have telcos, and you have a variety of different types of vendors and not just core compute, storage, and networking vendors. So we've really broadened the membership directory, we've broadened the community, and that's been fun and exciting to see as well. The growth in Asia has been amazing. To watch the entire movement of North Asian companies join Open Compute, Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent, Inspur, JD.com, all of these type of companies really add a lot of credibility to an open source organization like OCP. So my appreciation goes out to all the hard work that's been done in that region to help drive the awareness for OCP. And that has been one of our biggest challenges. When it first started, it was primarily whatever Facebook was doing, and it wasn't really perceived as being available for everyone else. So we've spent a lot of time educating the market that the benefits that you can get from Open Compute are not just for the hyperscalers, that you can achieve these benefits even at smaller deployment scales. So we've started to see that adoption and that attitude change within companies toward open hardware designs. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts for me over the last 10 years is the way the perception of companies working within an open community. Can you imagine 10 years ago, a hardware manufacturer open sourcing their design for a server or a rack or a power supply? But that's happening now in a community within OCP. So the shift of the supplier mentality from a proprietary closed mind to an open source collaborative environment has been the biggest surprise and the biggest achievement, I think, of Open Compute in the last 10 years. There are a lot of opportunities in the next decade for Open Compute. The first is watching how the different markets react to open hardware. It's happening now in telco. To watch how fast telcos around the world have embraced open hardware and open software and the disaggregation, I can see that in the next decade transferring to other industries. So financial services, public sector, really traditional healthcare organizations. So all of these legacy-oriented mindsets and how fast they can move toward open hardware, I think will be a big change in the next decade. Another big change will be advanced cooling. As I'd mentioned, we are seeing a big growth in the types of cooling technologies that are happening around the world. Most of those, if not all, are very proprietary. So I think in the next decade, as these cooling and advanced cooling and immersion companies start to work within Open Compute, you'll start to see their designs open up and be even more collaborative than they are right now. So I can anticipate a big wave of immersion type of solutions being open sourced in the future. Another area that I can see is around, of course, accelerators and interesting use cases for Open Compute. We're seeing that a little bit now, but with the open designs, you can put open compute hardware in a variety of use cases that are really unique that you cannot do with traditional hardware. So in the next decade, I anticipate a lot of more ruggedized or harsh environments where you could put an OCP device that you could not put a traditional piece of hardware. So these more interesting use cases, I think, will become even more interesting and more prevalent in the next decade. And my big bet for the next decade is sustainability and circular economy. It is certainly a topic that everyone is embracing now around sustainability and how do we make things carbon neutral and net zero. But in the future, the idea of buying circular economy hardware or second use, designing things with the end in mind, and reusing hardware to 2 and 3 and 4 times its life cycle, I think is going to be standard in the future. Customers will demand it, and as soon as the customers demand it, the market will react. So sustainability at the facility level and at the hardware level around scope 2 and scope 3 emissions, to me, is the big bet for the next decade.